Good morning, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. This morning, we're going to be talking about RFK and Donald Trump throwing up the pointer and saying, "FAFO, Pfizer, we're coming for you." So RFK, Health and Human Services Secretary, and of course President Donald Trump. The real big news here is that they're tag teaming the pharmaceutical industry and all of that in a way that just hasn't been done before. So we're hoping to get answers to some questions. And I'll say this before we get started. I'm about to bring Mario on. Before we get started, often when we see one of these, we say, my biggest concern is that nothing ever happens, nothing ever changes. I would say this: at a minimum, what we see here is some questions coming into the more public conversation than they have been previously. And that at least is not nothing.
Correct.
And the thing's not doing anything. All right, Mario, you're about to be up front.
Oh, Lord. Well, right. So people are talking about it. Okay, I guess that is a thing. All right. Let's do a little thought experiment. Let's wind back the clock 4 years ago. If Lowry and I even came up and even attempted the premise of this show, it would have been shut down immediately, and the channel, Lowry would have been canceled. Okay, for at least 2 weeks. For even attempting to do this show, might not even have got through the first minute of the program. Okay, that's how severe the censorship was at the time. So the fact that we can even have this discussion, which is oh God, like 5 years overdue, I guess that's a positive development. But it just shows you how bad the problem is, I guess.
Okay, so two things real quick. One, Cameron and I had a conversation related to this several years ago, right at circa beginning of 2021. And we weren't even talking about whether or not the vaccine was effective. We weren't even doing the whole vaccine skeptic thing. Never jab. We weren't even doing any of that. I brought up the question about definitions. And Cameron and I were having a conversation about whether or not mRNA, which is a new technology, whether it could even be called a vaccine, because a vaccine is a type of thing by definition, and an mRNA, quote unquote, vaccine is a different type of thing by definition. Right. And we were asked for that conversation. Right. So
yeah, just basic definitions
about the censorship regime, absolutely on point. And then Mario, real quick before you say anything else, for some reason it's happening again. The Rumble
I saw that
updating in the primary. I just dropped you a link to the pop out so you can see the chat.
I got it. Okay, so in one of Trump's lengthy boomer screeds, he truthed the other day, basically talking about he wanted basically Pfizer to essentially revalidate, I guess, what they had told him before. All right, Trump was lied to by Pfizer. Trump was lied to egregiously by Anthony Fauci. Okay, as for the safe and effective, right? So he was lied to from the start. Deborah Birx, all right, of course, also lied to him. It was a coup. It was a coup that took place in 2020. All right, not just at the end of the year, okay, with the election, but with the way that the entire government was administrated during the COVID scamdemic. All right, and we didn't. I think what we're seeing right now with the shakeup at the CDC, all right, firing the, I forgot what her freaking title was. What is she? Who said it? Monarez. I think she's the director of she's the director of the CDC. Okay. So Susan Monarez has been fired as the director of the CDC, and a bunch of people under her have resigned with her in protest, okay, to include Dr. Dmitry Dashkalakish, right, which you may have famously remember was seen Like he's wearing a suit and he's got his shirt ripped open and he's got like some satanic fetish like gear on or something like that. Anyway, and he's big into the DC underground gay kink scene. Actually, it's not even underground anymore. DC is the gayest city in America. Okay, like
is he the one that got? Is he the one that got outed by? I think it was Crowder's investigation team for just having these like massive orgy parties all throughout the pandemic.
I mean, that was a lot of people. Okay, that was Washington D.C. During the scamdemic. So, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he looks the part. So
there was no, I think it was a different cat, but there was one cat in particular that was like he. Damn, I wish I could remember his name.
Are you talking about
he was like the big dick cheese about the for lockdowns and quarantining and all that crap, and he was caught on camera just
You're talking about a James O'Keefe. That James O'Keefe.
Yeah, it was an O'Keefe sting that got.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't remember the names though.
I don't remember his name. I might be able to find it while you're talking.
Don't matter. But yeah, so the director of the CDC was fired, Susan Manarez. She'd only been in the job for a matter of weeks. She had just been approved, just been approved by Congress and their paid for their paid Pfizer advocacy. And the chief medical officer, Dr. Deborah Huri, Dr. Demeter Dashkalakish, all right, director of the National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases, Dr. Daniel Jernigan, and the National Center for Emerging Zoonotic Infectious Diseases, Dr. Jennifer Layden. All right, so yeah, they're all out the door. We got a friend of the show who's actually close nearby the CDC. That's where he works. Okay, there in Atlanta, and there were actually like spontaneous protests going on outside of the building. So pretty much just employees. Okay, employees of the CDC protesting the decision to basically shake up the entire organization. And for far too long, places like the CDC exist as basically a revolving door between the industries. Between the government and the industries that they purport to regulate. Okay, so you'll see C-suite individuals from the board of Pfizer routinely becoming directors of CDC, okay, or holding most prominent positions within such organizations. So it is a scam. Okay, it's the industry. Basically, the industry is regulating itself effectively. So, right. And hopefully,
which of the articles did you want to start with, Mario?
I guess we can start with the I want the answer. That's what I'm working on right now.
Okay.
All right.
Trump demands Pfizer prove mRNA jabs work.
That's right.
So last month, the CDC Advisory Committee launched a review into the safety, effectiveness, and immunogenicity of COVID-19 vaccines, as well as whether mRNA remains in the body longer than advertised. So, and a CDC advisory committee launched a review. So this is, the police investigated themselves and found they did nothing wrong.
Well, remember it was even at the beginning, they said that if you took that shot and you got it up in your upper arm, they said that it only stayed in your deltoid muscle. You know what I mean? Like the lipid nanoparticles, which are the delivery system, right? For the mRNA treatment, okay, experimental medicine, whatever you want to call it. And that was immediately determined false, okay, because it was heading straight to the testes and ovaries, all right, of the individuals who were unfortunate enough to take that shot. So COVID has been nothing but lies. What you're not going to see, unfortunately, I view COVID, okay, I view COVID, Operation Warp Speed, and the vaccine, okay, and basically the pharmaceutical industry that made this possible. I kind of view this in the same tier, like S tier of conspiracies, like kind of like Epstein, okay. If the truth about COVID and what was done to us, okay, and what the real results, okay, the real global results of that experimental medicine, if that was ever fully revealed, that would be the end of a lot of governments in Western
Yep.
in the United, within like the
And
NATO alliance. Okay, just
and
like
we're not even
Epstein.
saying we're not even saying we know what the absolute truth is. Well,
Yeah.
the only thing we can say with absolute certainty is that we know that our government, world governments, and world multi-government organizations like the World Health Organization, the CDC, every federal government on the planet lied.
Mhm.
And we know this to be true. We know this to be true because they have not only because they have said the opposite thing, right? They've made claim A and then made claim B and then gone we know that. They make a claim and then they make another claim which makes the other claim impossible. And so either, if that's all the information we had, we could maybe accept that they didn't know and they made a mistake, they got it wrong, figured it out, and then came back and corrected themselves. But we know with Fauci came out and said masks don't work. Then he said masks do work, and by the way, you need 2 or 3 masks.
Yep.
And now we've seen the science, and we know that the masks never worked. And that's just one example, right? That's not even getting into COVID death over-reporting, where there was not a distinction made between died of COVID and died with COVID, right? The most scandalously famous of those were the several incidents. There was one died in a motorcycle crash and was listed as died of COVID. We later learned there were several of those with like house fires, automobile crashes, gunfights. He had 3 gunshot wounds to the face, died of COVID. The COVID list sounds suspiciously like the Clinton kill order list, right? We found him in a crashed airplane with 3 rounds to the back of his head, ruled suicide.
Right. It was layers of compounding lies from the start. Okay, in January 2020. All right. Like you said, with Fauci and the masks, okay, then the false reporting, right, lies right from the start, to the point where like someone who's kind of attuned to things, like myself and others in our collective, by March we were like, okay, I don't trust anything you say anymore. Like, no, there's something, there's someone behind a green curtain, like operating this for their own, for some ulterior motive. I'm not going to participate in this shit. And by the grace of God, I lived in Florida, okay, during that period, which gave me more protection, okay, than and probably any other state in the country. I mean, I know Georgia.
In October and November of 2019, we were reporting on the rise of some terrifying virus news coming out of Wuhan, China. Mm-hmm. By January of 2020, on this show, I said, listen, I don't know if there's actually going to be anything to this disease. I don't know if it's going to be really severe. I don't know yet what the mortality rate is or what the rate of spread is going to be. But I can tell you this for certain, and I'm pulling my son out of his kindergarten class, and we're going full-time homeschool with all 4 kids.
Yeah.
Right. This was in January 2020. I can tell you this for certain, and I'm pulling my kids. All my kids are coming out of public school, going into homeschooling right now, because the world, not just America, but the world, is going to lose its fucking mind next week. And no shit, the following Monday was when they shut down all the schools. Yeah. Right.
Well, they did.
And then let me say this other thing about the lies, right? About the lies generally. So I believe there is a large overarching conspiracy that went down between government interests. But like Mario alluded to, there's also an element of standalone complex here where it appears that there may have been multiple unconnected but interrelated conspiracy maneuvers. And there's some stuff, like we talked about the over-reporting of the numbers just a second ago. Some of that was just garden variety corruption, where the government said, we will pay you 5 times as much in whatever subsidy or grant, you're going to get paid, $500 for a patient with the flu, but you're going to get paid, $2,500 to treat a patient with COVID. And so there was massive intentional over-reporting out of U.S. hospitals, just with hospitals trying to grab a chunk of that money. Just like later we saw with the PPP loans, people just absolutely robbing the government.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And not to mention the spending during COVID. Okay, this would be under Trump, all right, in 2020.
And the total deaths worldwide remained the same.
That's a good point. Yes, sorry, Major. So during COVID, okay, there
were no flu deaths.
There wasn't like a massive increase in excess deaths. Okay, the increase in excess deaths only occurred after they started distributing the shots. Okay, that's when the death count soared.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like I said. It's if the truth about this was ever fully revealed, all right, and I mean like for the masses, like Oliver Stone makes a 2.5 hour movie, all right, that lays it all out in such a fashion that everybody could understand. This would be continuity of government ending, all right, in the Western world for the majority of countries. And you think the United States was bad? Now, look at the rest of the Anglosphere. Okay, Canada.
Canada.
You can't even earn an income. Don't take a shot. Can't earn an income. Okay, and if you protest about it, we'll trample you with fucking horses and freeze your bank account. Look at the UK. UK, same thing. All right. Look at Australia. Oh, if you don't want to take the shot,
we'll put you in a concentration camp in Australia.
We'll put you in a freaking concentration camp. All right. If you reject government policy. Oh, and beating up children. Cops beating up white kids in the streets because they wanted to go outside and play, like just sick shit like that. New Zealand, basically a prison island, okay, led by that horse-faced bitch, Jacinda, with maximum tyranny imposed. So depending on where you were in the United States, it wasn't even that bad. And a lot of people in the United States, and the states that it was worst, like New York, they fled. Like so many freaking people came down here to Florida during COVID. Like, it's not even funny. You'd be driving in Jacksonville, like on the not the turnpike, the 295, 495, whatever, the loop around Jacksonville. Nothing but New York and New Jersey plates. All right, for months. It was crazy. But yeah.
So basically, as part of the review, they'll look at gaps in existing knowledge relating to biodistribution, pharmacokinetics, and persistence of the spike protein, mRNA, and lipid nanoparticles. That's what Mario was talking about a minute ago, to inform immunization recommendations, the document states. In other words, they'll be looking at whether the vaccine has ever worked, as well as harms it may cause. As Zero Hedge readers know, studies have found that the spike protein and mRNA in the vaccines persist for some time. And if you'll recall, Rachel Maddow was the most prolific and famous crier of this particular narrative. But we were told it is 100% effective. If you get the vaccine, you cannot catch COVID and you cannot pass it. And more importantly, we were told you cannot pass it on to someone else. You cannot become a carrier. We now know that to have not only been false,
but the opposite of reality. Okay.
Well, more importantly, we not only know that to be false now, we now know that it was known to be false at the time they made those claims.
Yeah. Well, it's you see that montage, right? That montage where it shows news reporting on the vaccine, right? Or the vax, if we'll call it that. Where it's like it begins with like 96% efficacy, right? And it goes through a montage of headlines, all right, over the course of the next 8 months. And at the end, it's like actually negative efficacy. Oh, by the way, it's AIDS. Like you now have an immuno disorder, all right, because you took that vaccine, that vax.
How about this montage?
Vaccine. A CDC safety group says the heart condition in adolescent and young adults is linked to the shot.
CDC now looking into reports of heart problems in young vaccinated teenagers. Now, chest pain, fluttering, and heart inflammation are among some of the new side effects announced by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, observed in some people who have received the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine.
Ending up with inflammation around the heart, causing chest pain and shortness of breath. Myocarditis is noted by the Canadian Pediatric Society as a possible side effect of mRNA vaccine.
There was a better version of that where every drop was followed by "brought to you by Pfizer."
Yep. So yeah, what was done? What was done is was in every essence, in every sense. Oops, let me turn my camera on. A crime against humanity. All right. And are you going to get justice for that? I doubt it. Okay, it's like I said, the government isn't gonna. The government is not going to self-abolish. Okay,
right?
No government
even look like
gallows, Washington. Yeah, National Capitol, the National Mall, gallows as far as the eye can see, all the way from the White House straight down to Washington Monument. Okay, that's what justice looks like. You're not going to get that, of course, because that would end. Like I said, governments will not self-abolish. So, just actually breaking this morning, there's actually like a concerted effort right now from former CDC directors and Pfizer and Moderna to get RFK Jr. either fired or have him resign. All right, so they are taking this.
Yeah, I saw the memo from nine former CDC chiefs or whatever. Oh, the vaccine's safe and effective at RFK Jr.'s. It sounds a hell of a lot like 50-something former intelligence community leaders say that the laptop is a Russian hoax. Oh, do you now? And it turns out that you're lying. You're absolutely liars.
Absolutely. Well, all right. In other news, with RFK, he's recently made a promise to the American people that there's going to be some disclosure about the autism epidemic that's been going on in this country for honestly like the last 30 years, all right, at least, right? And basically the relation to just the vaccine schedule in general. Okay, as you may have known, I don't have exact numbers here, but the number of vaccines, number of shots recommended for children has grown like wildly. All right, since Chris and I were children. All right, Chris, you frozen or are you there?
No, I'm here.
Okay, so yeah, the number of recommended. The number of recommended.
You see the show while you are the talent.
Very well. So the number of the number of recommended vaccines as part of like the childhood vaccine schedule has grown substantially. Okay, almost exponentially since the polio shot. Okay, which was the godfather of them all. And also in that same time period, there's a direct correlation between cases of autism rising. Now we're at what is it, like 1 in 20 kids is autistic or something like that diagnosed in this country. Like crazy numbers, and like not all autism is bad. Okay, sometimes it's like a little pocket superpower that gives you greater analytic ability. Okay, but other times it's utterly devastating, especially if it's like nonverbal autism. You know, we're talking like Hoffman and Rain Man type shit. Okay, except minus the card counting ability. So So RFK Jr. has promised that he's going to release support. A study has been commissioned. It's already been commissioned for months. That it will be released in September. All right. Now, I know it sounds like Epstein files, right? But
yeah,
I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. It is interesting that you see, back in like the early 90s, if you thought that vaccines were giving kids autism, that meant you were like straight to crazy town, tinfoil hat, crazy town, right? I specifically remember Jenny McCarthy essentially getting the Playboy Playmate, right? Jenny McCarthy getting basically run out of Hollywood because she was saying that that the vaccines gave her kids autism. Like she had an autistic son, okay, and she blamed the pharmaceutical industry for it, and she got run out of Hollywood. All right, that's why you stopped seeing her. Um, but yeah, so now I'm glad that it's getting the proper attention in the public eye that it should. It seems like we're playing catch up for bullshit that should have been exposed like decades ago. Okay, seemingly every day. I mean, I'm glad we're moving in the right direction here, but it's like, damn guys, why would you let a problem fester for that long? Like,
So
the government's ability to cover its own ass, like really, it doesn't matter how many lives are sacrificed for a government to cover its ass. Okay, um, I don't like I said though, I don't know how they're gonna, even if they do show that there is a 1-for-1 correlation, all right, okay, or very strong correlation. Okay, in other words, the vaxes are causing increases in
well,
autism.
here's your correlation. Here's your correlation, right? Since the invention of the smallpox vaccine, beginning in we haven't recorded the numbers on autism diagnoses until the 1960s. So autism was included in the DSM in the 1960s, and at the beginning it was around 1 in 5,000 children. Right, that's the 70s. That's the 60s and 70s, 80s and 90s. It went from that to 1 in 500, according to the CDC estimates. By 2000, as of the year 2000, estimates put it at 1 in 150. 2010, 1 in 68. 2020, 1 in 36. 2022, 1 in 30.
So you went ahead and actually got the numbers I said I didn't have while I was talking. You're awesome. Like
That's amazing.
You're the best co-host ever. You're the
Co-host.
I'm the co-host. Whatever. You're the hostess with the mostest, Chris. Okay.
We are co-hosts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's those numbers are staggering.
Yes.
And
if you overlay it with
50 years ago, it was 1 in 5,000. 1 in 5,000 children with autism. Today, it's 1 in 30.
And what a lot of people think it is, it's the adjuvants, all right, that are put in the vaccines that are causing it, right? Adjuvants are in order to get your body to generate some type of immune response. Okay, like a vaccine in theory is just like either a really weak or a dead form of the virus that you're trying to inoculate the person against. You inject them with like the virus on easy mode, and their immune system goes in, T cells, white blood cells, whatever, and just knock the thing out, right? And once they kill it, then they know how to kill it, so they can kill it again. Well, now sometimes that weakened virus, okay, or the dead virus isn't enough for the immune system to actually generate a response to like recognize that the foreign body threat, okay, to the system. So they have to add something nasty, all right, to kind of jumpstart your immune system, like mercury, okay, or aluminum, right? It's toxic metals. They have to add those to the vaccines to get your body to generate that response. And that, like I said, not a scientist, but that I suspect.
You need a gunshot to let you know the final story.
I suspect it's heavy metals passing through the blood-brain barrier that is causing this, all right? In my non-professional, but almost always right opinion.
Non-professional, but well-read opinion.
Well, I didn't have like a long show lined up this morning. So
Neither did I.
yeah.
So I mean, I think we pretty much covered the topic, right?
Yeah.
Was there anything you wanted? I mean, basically, Trump said, "Hey, prove it."
Right. So things to look for in the coming days. Okay. If Trump stands by RFK, okay, and there is not even a rumor that RFK will be stepping down, all right, from his position as health secretary, right, whatever his position is called. Excuse me.
Yeah, Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Yeah, Secretary of Health and Human Services. Okay, so if Trump stands by him, there's no movement there. Okay, that's a good sign. And I think Trump will. Like, that was one of the Trump and RFK Jr. when they got together on the campaign trail. That was like a grand alliance moment. You know what I mean? Like, they couldn't. I don't think Trump would. I don't think Trump would betray him, just because of how politically powerful. Yeah, having RFK on your.
I suspect that the alliance between Trump and RFK, I mean, obviously part of the alliance began with the Democrats freezing RFK out of the primary and just complete. I mean, it's painful to say even, but the Democrat primary last year was even more painfully, obviously rigged than the Democrat primary in 2020.
It's a shame,
right? And if you go back to the Democrat primary in 2020, and we saw stuff like voting systems that had names like, not just Dominion, but they all had names like, Shadow Force and all these. They sounded like supervillain organizations out of video games or comic books that were clearly rigging the primary. I'm not even talking about the 2020 election that was obviously stolen. I'm talking about the Democrat primary in 2020 that was obviously rigged from the beginning to freeze out less desirable Democrat candidates and put Joe Biden in the White House. Last year, it was even more painfully obvious. They sued. Right, the Democrat Party sued certain candidates to remove them from the ticket, sued others who were viewed as useful idiots, basically, to keep them on the ticket, to prevent them from withdrawing. I forget his name. Big black activist was running as an independent, and there was concern that he would split the vote, so they sued him off. And then there was another. And we covered it before, but there was so much extra shenanigans last year in it that it was just painfully obvious that the primary was being stolen.
Our whole party's a sham. Like, I actually watched the Democrat National Convention before this most recent election. Okay, it was fucking. I mean, it was embarrassing. All right, honestly, day one of the Republican convention was absolute cringe. Okay, was like nightmare weapons grade cringe as well. But still, yeah, the Democrat Party is anything but democratic. All right.
But my point,
I've been saying for a while that the Democrat Party needs to be effectively destroyed. Okay, it needs to cease to exist. All right, following an election where they get numbers so low that it warrants the disassembling of the party. All right, and then the Republican Party needs to split into two parties. That would better serve the American public, where you have the conservatives, okay, and then like the conservative progressives, all right, which is what they really are. They're still progressives, and then an actual right wing as right option.
The point that I was meandering to is that was kind of the impetus, kind of the inciting incident for there to be an alliance between Trump and RFK Jr. But I guarantee somewhere in that conversation, RFK came to Trump and said, "Hey, your name, your legacy is plastered all over Operation Warp Speed and the development of the COVID vaccine."
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Even though we saw the entire pharmaceutical industry pull a rope-a-dope and say we just can't get it through. We can't get through the approvals. We can't We can't punch it through. And then the election happens. Donald Trump gets cheated out of the election. And a week later, all of a sudden, all the vaccines were approved. Like, that happened entirely.
Like 3 days. It was like 3 days. It was like immediate. Like, wow.
Yeah, I'm sure nobody noticed that. And yeah, you've got to be a tinfoil hat wearing Alex Jones nut job to believe that there was anything shady going on there. But somewhere in that conversation, when they first decided for RFK Jr. to work on the campaign trail with Donald Trump last year, Trump was reminded, your name is all over a vaccine that is awful. Everybody knows it's awful. And it's your fault. Your name is all over that. Yeah. But take heart, Mr. President, because we're going to prove that what happened is you were personally defrauded by a conspiracy to defraud the American people, and that's how your name got attached to this.
Yes, he was lied to from the start by bad counsel. Okay, and a lot of bad counsel. Trump's first administration could be defined as bad counsel. Okay.
Yeah, and we know that Trump was. We know that. We've got generals on record saying, "Oh yeah, we would just straight up lie to the president about our numbers in Syria because we didn't want to
call China. I'll call China and give them advance warning."
Yeah.
Mark Milley saying he'd call China to give them advance warning like that. That was like.
And how the fuck
can somebody shoot this man? Somebody shoot him.
How this man's head not in a basket? That you're a general in the United States Army, and you committed highest treason against specifically and explicitly the President of the United States of America. Right? That's not refusing to follow orders.
Yeah.
That's making an overt attempt to commit espionage on behalf of the enemy against the United States of America.
Yep.
Yeah, Millie belongs in a can.
Yep.
A very small can. A Hills Brothers coffee can.
Nice. Like Big Lebowski. This is our most modestly priced receptacle.
I was going to river through it, but yeah.
All right. Sergeant Major says, I bet Mario made some military intelligence warrant officers cringe. Yes, they did. Yes, I did, Sergeant Major. Cringe and praise, okay? And no in between.
You know what's funny?
Cringe and praise in equal measure and no in between.
You know what's funny, Mario? I bet you've had phone calls like this. I've had more than one veteran, and some of them very high-ranking, people who were my immediate supervisors and senior leadership from back in the day, call me or reach out on Facebook or something and say, "Wow, Lowry, I used to think you were a little off, kind of crazy, maybe a little off the deep end. You were right about everything." Yeah. And you know what I tell them?
Yep.
Like, you had the same training and the same access to information that I had. How did you miss this? How did you miss these things? And I'll tell you how you miss these things. Because you were told,
you trusted,
you were programmed through the same mechanical instruments that we get from Galbraith's The Anatomy of Power, that we get from the Source Book of Magic, right? Books that we get from Alinsky's Rules from Radicals, right? The documents that discuss and explain and iterate on the mechanisms of control, neurolinguistic programming, and political organization, right? There are freaking how-to manuals on controlling people's minds. I've studied them, and you know what I've done with them? Some people use them to corrupt your government, to corrupt your children, to seek the mutilation of your genitalia. I've used that information to sell insurance, to sell properties.
I thought profit motive. How basic.
And to just figure out what the fuck is going on, so I could come and tell you guys shit.
I was hoping that a man who looks like a wizard would be using the government psyops, okay, and psychological warfare under Colonel Aquino to develop Lowry's defense against the dark arts. Okay, that's what I was hoping. But oh well.
You know what? That could be a show. We could do that. Get some wizard robes, some like snake dark wizard robes, big open sleeves.
my wife, a vagina, hang like wizard sleeve. Yeah, I would do that. I would LARP it up at you. Dress up like wizards and just go to Walmart. Like
Dark wizard on a Kubota with a dark wizard robes, Kubota, 240 Bravo. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about national defense.
We're going to talk about defense against the dark arts. Yes. We call this magic missile. All right, before this turns into just a absolute faggotry, want to put a pin in it, I guess.
Yeah, I got to get going anyway. I got a thing this morning, an appointment. So, you guys, thanks for watching this morning. I hope you were entertained and informed. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.